meeting to order. The first order of business tonight is the joint public hearing on the innovative calendar. I'd like to welcome you all here tonight.
We'll call the WLBA board to order. Chris will conduct the meeting at this point. We'll try to project. If you can't hear us in the back, raise your hand. You heard about the teacher that said to the kid, if you have to go to the toilet, put your finger up like this. One of the little kids says, what good will that do?
All right, on that, I think we'll move on. I'm going to turn it over to Barb to explain the innovative calendar, and then Barb, go ahead.
One of the things that schools can do with professional development days is conduct early releasing in the whole day of professional development. Well, that's probably as well as I can talk. And the calendar that we use usually has 7 to 9, sometimes 10 early release days. And innovative calendar means that schools can approach the Department of Education and ask for ways other than are typical to educate students. So it's required by law that there be 180 days of school for students, and our master contracts dictate whether there are additional days for employees or not. And one of the board members, thanks to John Smith, asked me about would there be any way that days of early release could be condensed into days where there's just absolutely no school. Was it even legal to do that? There's a contact person at the Department of Ed. I contacted them and found out that yes, you can do that, but the due date for innovative calendar was November 1st. So I emailed back and said, is it even worth our effort to have a hearing, which is required by law, and then write a letter of appeal to ask for a waiver for the waiver for innovative calendar? And the person at the DE said absolutely. So there are 2 pieces to innovative calendar. Number 1, we provide your current calendar for the school year, and ours will show our early release days as well as our days when we've had no school because of professional development. And we just have to equate the numbers of hours. So the students absolutely have at least the same number of hours of school as they currently do or more. And then the second piece of it that's required is that we must show that there's some economic advantage to the district to do that. So when I'm talking to the DE, the most common arrangement is they translate the releases into full days of professional development. We do not have to have an approved calendar to apply for innovative calendar, and it will be a waiver if we get one to be able to do this. So my thought is that we go ahead and apply for it, even though it would be late, and we could apply it if it's approved to the 2009-10 calendar. You have a sheet, landscape, horizontal, that I asked John Kraft to put together for us about the savings. And of interest to you should be when we look at transportation that wouldn't run for 3 days, because our early release days translate into 3 full days of professional development. So we would have a 180-day calendar. Students would attend 177 days, and they would have more time in class than they currently have under our current school calendar, the way we do our professional development. So what wouldn't happen on that day with those 3 days would be buses wouldn't run, secretaries except for business office secretaries wouldn't work, associates wouldn't work, nurse wouldn't, and cooks wouldn't. And you can take a look at the 3 days translate into $15,425 of savings. When I talked to the Department of Ed, we write a cover letter, and his suggestion was that we just make a very poignant statement about the current financial times, what's happening in districts in Iowa, the across-the-board cut, what the savings would look like, and then there's about a 3-page report that needs to be filled out. So I would entertain questions related to this. My recommendation is that that we proceed with it. It may not be approved for the 09-10 calendar. And again, I would entertain any questions if anyone has any.
Would this be at the beginning of the week, or the middle of the week, or the end of the week, so parents can make arrangements for their children?
We actually could put those days anytime we wanted them, Dave. They could be Mondays, they could be Fridays. churches still like them to be Wednesdays because that makes it difficult for kids that are being cared for somewhere else to be able to get to church activities after school. So they really could be anywhere. Especially what we do with professional development days, like we have one coming right at the end of Easter break this year. Easter break shortens, so we moved our professional development day. So I mean, kids have a longer break, but teachers come back that day early for a full day. So honestly, if you would agree that we should apply for this, if we get it then what would happen is you could look at the school calendar, which you will approve next month more than likely, and you could look and see where those days are and see what your thoughts were related to that. Now, we have one day by master contract, staff master contract. Well, actually, it's only if you offer as well. But we need to do that day that teachers come back from Christmas break. The day after they come back is a break day. But we can work through that. It makes sense to have full days of professional development. Those are useful days for us. Financially, it has an advantage. But again, when the calendar would be approved, it would become public to everyone, so there'd be notice as soon as April, to anyone who's concerned about what those dates were.
I would think that this would work better not only for the school, but for the parents as well, as far as finding childcare and having these kids get out early, they're still at work and things like that.
Well, I know that that's one thing that I hear a lot about is it seems like you people are always letting kids out early for some kind of a meeting of the teachers. And this would put an end to that.
We are required to have a professional development plan by Iowa code. And what that plan looks like is up to each individual district. And a few years ago, there was a conversation, if you remember, about funding additional days of professional development, but that never came about. So schools had to find other ways to be able to provide those amounts of professional development there. And there's additional pressure for professional development because of the Iowa core curriculum. And we actually have a little bit of money from each district from Iowa core professional development. But sometimes people ask me, why do we have professional development? It's required by law for the student.
We still have a problem with travel time cutting down the amount of professional development time, like when we have it after school.
Sure, because we need to get people back and forth to buildings.
I mean, like if you have it all together, like from Lakeview to SAC or SAC to Lakeview.
This year we've been putting our middle school and high school teachers together, so somebody has to drive somewhere. And then we put elementary staff from both elementary buildings together so somebody travels. So we have full days. You really gain a lot. You don't have to, you really don't lose any of that travel time. Our plan is students are dismissed at 12:50, but it's about 1:20, 1:15 before we actually begin PD in the building. So I don't need a motion from you. I just need, I see that you're thinking about whether we needed one or not. It's basically if there's so much objection at the hearing that the boards would feel like they didn't want to move ahead with it. So it doesn't take a motion, but it does take the hearing because part of what I have to enclose are the board minutes saying that we have the hearing and the posted vote.
For those of you out there, this is a public hearing, and if you want to address the board, you just have to be recognized by the presider.
So the estimated savings, according to this, is $15,425 by going to an innovative calendar. Is that correct?
Right.
Unless I would hear no discussion about this, negative discussion about this from the WLBA board, I would assume that you agree with it and that I would tell the superintendent that that's the case.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where would that $15,000 go? Would it go back into the general fund? That $15,000 is general fund, our general fund operating fund.